What if the healthiest thing in your kitchen isn't what you think it is? In 2025, investigators across North America tested hundreds of bottles labeled extra virgin olive oil. What they found stunned even veterans. Some failed purity tests, others weren't olive oil at all, but seed oils disguised as premium. The same brands people drizzle over salads, trust for heart health, and feed their kids, now part of a billion-dollar deception. And that's just the surface, because behind every green bottle lies a story of fraud, shortages, and organized crime, stretching from U.S. supermarkets to European warehouses raided by police. Stay with me, because I'm about to reveal 5 olive oil scandals that'll change how you see every drop you pour, starting with the brand likely sitting in your cupboard right now. Our first case isn't just famous, it's the one that built America's trust in olive oil. You've seen it on every supermarket shelf. That soft green bottle, the golden liquid, the name that sounds so authentically Italian, Bertolli. For decades, it's been the face of extra virgin in American kitchens. Trusted, familiar, unquestioned. But behind that trust lies one of the most embarrassing stories in the olive oil industry. Because Bertolli, owned by Spain's De Olio Group, has been at the center of multiple lawsuits over exactly what's inside those bottles. Back in 2014, U.S. consumers filed a class action suit accusing Bertolli of mislabeling and misleading advertising. The problem? Many bottles labeled extra virgin reportedly failed to meet international purity standards once tested. Some were oxidized, degraded, or blended with cheaper, refined oils. In 2018, De Olio quietly settled. They agreed to stricter testing, better packaging, and clearer labels, but admitted no wrongdoing. The headlines faded. And yet, in the years that followed, independent spot tests continued to find inconsistent quality. Some bottles tested fine, others fell short of what extra virgin should be. Then came 2025, a year when the olive oil world faced record prices and global shortages. And experts began warning again, when supply tightens, the temptation to cheat grows. It's not that Bertolli was ever proven to be fake olive oil, it's that the brand became a symbol of how even the most trusted names can blur the line between purity and profit. And here's the twist that makes this case so important. Bertolli still dominates US sales. You can find it in over 80% of supermarkets. So if the best-selling olive oil in America has a history of blurred lines, what does that say about the rest of the aisle? Because the next brand built its reputation on being the most certified, most American olive oil of them all, until tests told a different story. If Bertolli represents old-world trust, Pompeian sells itself as modern American authenticity, USDA-certified extra virgin, the only olive oil to carry that seal, printed proudly on every label. But here's what most shoppers don't realize. That certification doesn't actually mean what you think it does. It doesn't come from a government lab. It's based on paperwork and voluntary testing under the USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service, a program the brand itself pays to join. In other words, Pompeian controls the process designed to prove its purity. Back in 2015, Consumer Reports tested several popular U.S. olive oils. Pompeian's extra virgin failed to meet the chemical or sensory standards for that grade, oxidized, bland, and closer to virgin or refined. Other independent lab tests in the years that followed found the same pattern, not unsafe, but not the premium quality promised on the label. Fast forward to 2025, the brand still leans on that USDA badge, marketing itself as America's first choice for authentic olive oil. But experts warn that oxidation happens long before the bottle ever reaches your shelf. Long transit times, heat exposure, or simply age. Even a small lapse can turn extra virgin into something far less. Pompeian's story isn't one of outright fraud. It's a case of technical truth masking practical deception. Everything on the label checks out, but the experience in the bottle doesn't. A product that passes on paper, yet fails on the palate. And if the certified brand isn't truly pure, what happens when you step away from the big names altogether? The next case isn't about marketing, it's about proof, hidden in the data of 2025. In September 2025, the North American Olive Oil Association released the most extensive testing project in its history. 200 samples pulled from supermarket shelves across the US and Canada. Every big brand, every private label. On paper, the news looked good. No widespread adulteration. But buried inside the 40-page report was the part almost nobody mentioned. 2 of the smaller brands, names you'd walk right past in the bargain aisle, failed up to 5 purity tests each. One extra virgin sample didn't even qualify as olive oil. It was a refined blend, cheaper seed oils cut in to stretch profit margins. The study didn't name them publicly, only that each held less than 1% of market share. But that anonymity is exactly the problem, because those are the bottles you grab when you're in a rush, chasing a deal, assuming all olive oil is the same. And that quiet corner of the shelf is where the cracks begin. The FDA calls this economically motivated adulteration, a polite way to say profit-driven fraud. It's rare, yes, but when it happens, it hides in plain sight, behind recycled glass and green labels that look just like the real thing. What the 2025 data revealed wasn't a catastrophe, it was a warning shot. Even with modern testing, the system only finds what it chooses to look for. Because if the watchdogs are already missing the small stuff, what about the bottles that never get tested at all? If this is opening your eyes, take a second to hit the like button. It tells the algorithm this story matters. Because the more people see what's really going on behind those labels, the harder it gets for brands to hide. And don't go anywhere, because the next case isn't about lawsuits or testing reports. It's about the bottles sitting in your pantry right now, the ones you thought were safe. Why pay extra for premium olive oil when the store brand promises the same purity for less? That's the logic millions of shoppers follow, and it's exactly how corner cutting thrives. Across the US, private label oils fill entire shelves. They look clean, simple, trustworthy. But behind those quiet labels is a supply chain that's often more opaque than any big brands. Independent US and EU lab tests have found that some cheaper oils show higher oxidation, lower sensory scores, and even trace contamination from other seed oils. Not illegal levels, but enough to turn extra virgin into barely virgin. In 2019, Consumer Reports flagged several bargain shelf oils that barely passed chemical standards. More recently, import inspectors have seized mislabeled blends disguised as private label olive oil, bottles that claimed cold-pressed purity but contained a mix of refined sunflower and soybean oil. Each case is small. Together, they form a pattern. It's the economics of invisibility. Big brands face lawsuits and headlines. Store brands hide in plain sight. Cut the price, and somewhere along the line, purity gets cut too. So yes, you might save $1 at the register, but what you're really buying is uncertainty. A product that could be fresh or could have been bottled years ago under a different name. And if the budget bottles already blur the line between olive and oil, what happens when global shortages invite actual crime into the mix? Because that's where our final case begins, far beyond the supermarket aisle. While those North American tests were still underway, European watchdogs were already sounding alarms. Record droughts had decimated olive harvests in Spain and Italy, sending prices to historic highs. And wherever value rises, fraud follows. Reports from Food Fraud Advisors and Food Navigator warned that adulteration cases were spiking again. Police across Europe raided warehouses filled with counterfeit extra virgin seed oil blends bottled under fake Mediterranean brands. In one joint EU raid, more than 200,000 liters of fraudulent olive oil were seized in a single sweep. Authorities called it the most profitable food crime of the year. By midsummer, the wave of theft and forgery crossed oceans. In October, U.S. headlines told of $2.5 million worth of Terra de Lisa olive oil stolen from a Texas warehouse. A heist so clean, investigators suspected organized crime. For American shelves, that European chaos has consequences. When drought, theft, and fraud choke supply abroad, the temptation grows to cut corners before export, to stretch purity just enough that no lab will notice. And the result? Bottles that cost more than ever, yet deliver less than they claim. Today, those same premium, organic, and heritage labels promise eco-virtue and artisan care, but behind them lies a continent in crisis and a supply chain ripe for deception. In 2025, olive oil wasn't just food, it was liquid gold. And if even Europe's sacred harvest, the olive groves that built civilizations, can be corrupted by greed, what hope is there for the bottle in your kitchen? So what have we uncovered? Bertolli, the trusted classic with a tainted history. Pompeian, certified on paper, but not in practice. The hidden cracks of 2025, proof that purity slips quietly through the system. Store brands, the everyday trap of cheap promises and costly shortcuts. And Europe's green promise, raided warehouses, stolen barrels, a sacred harvest turned black market gold. One truth cuts through them all. Olive oil is not what the labels want you to believe. Behind every green bottle lies a story of drought, deception, and billion-dollar temptation. A product once seen as the symbol of health and honesty, now caught between profit and purity. If this changed how you see your kitchen, share it with someone who still believes their olive oil is pure. And subscribe, because next time, we're exposing the next everyday product hiding its own dirty secret.